All right, this is the Survivor Files with from Survivor Vanuatu, Chad Crittenden.
Hey everybody.
So let's see, Chad, from your season, I spoke to uh I spoke to Dolly Neely from Survivor Vanuatu. I know that she got voted out pretty early, but yeah, did you guys get to know each other at all?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, of all the people on the other tribe who I didn't really know, I guess I would have wanted to get to know her better more than the others just because she seemed a little mysterious and she was voted off so early. I mean, there were a few people that we didn't really get to meet at all, really, and hang out with. But somehow Dolly was one that she didn't really seem to fit the mold of what the other kind of survivors were, or just the way that I think casting worked. So yeah, I think that Dolly would have been a really interesting person to get to know. But I never really actually conversed with her at any length.
Yeah, like in getting to talk to her, I feel like that she was really fun. She seemed pretty easygoing, but she also played a pretty hard game. And she said that on the tribe she was on, there were like a few really hard games going on. So, like, I feel like her
Yeah,
game, she was trying to get involved with two different alliances. And then her original alliance, they ultimately opted, you had to go the other way.
right. Yeah, and she didn't strike me. Gosh, I learned so much more about her when I actually watched the TV show, live like everyone else did. People assume that we know these people. I don't. I was on the jury. She was voted off and bailed way before I got to Ponderosa, so I never really spoke with her. So, but I just once when I was watching the show, I kind of got that feeling that there's some personality types that are less apt to be able to go and navigate the tribal dynamics. And I just felt like maybe that wasn't her forte. But she was a good character though.
Yeah. Yeah. So something I actually found out from her was before the game actually started, you guys were kind of like sequestered at the Ponderosa and you each had a roommate. Her roommate was actually Twilight.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, my roommate was Rory.
Okay.
Yeah, but gosh, you know what? I don't have a lot of distinct, clear memories of that at all because you're just so jacked up on like adrenaline and like excitement, and there's so much going on. You're ready to get dropped into this game. And yeah, I mean, and plus we're still on a gag order. We're not technically allowed to be doing any kind of like talking about anything relevant, at all.
Yeah. And you're right. Like the whole thing is kind of a change of scenery. You guys are going somewhere pretty remote, somewhere pretty new. So like you're going to a whole new place and then you're just about to start the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a, I remember it was Rory, but not a lot of like distinct memories of just that short time.
Yeah. Um, let's see. So, talking about Rory a little bit more, I noticed he got a few votes for the first vote, which was between Rory, Chris, and Brooke. Um, I was really surprised that you guys actually chose to do Brooke. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, do you remember why that was?
Yeah, somewhat. So, when you're coming to this really big decision of who to pick, it's very arbitrary. Like, okay, we could pick this person or that. Everyone had, or, the choices that we had, they were pretty cool. We don't know each other that well. There's nobody that's like super annoying. There's nobody that's going to be bad physically and not be able to carry us through the challenges. There was not any one thing that stuck out like we got to vote that person out. So the one thing with Brooke that we kind of knew about was that he had applied for the show more than once and was just really trying to get on so badly. And we just had this feeling, which is not justified, but it was enough that he was happy just to be on the show. You know, does that make sense? So like we kind of made it a case and everyone kind of looked down and agreed, even though it was super weak, that you know what, he'll be happy to just be on the show. And if he's voted off, he'll be, one of those things that, he would have just been thankful to have even played at all. Which is bullshit. I mean, which is, absolutely not true. Like I know Brooke now. I know him, since getting off, and I know him from just a few days that we were together, and we've hung out at events after since then, and I know it affected him, and but what are you gonna do? Like the first person voted off is gonna be the first person voted off. There's no getting around it, It's not gonna be pretty. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't regret it, but at the same time, like who else would it be?
yeah, yeah. Like I feel like you guys kind of cemented your love, your you kind of cemented like the love heavy five like pretty or
Hmm.
early on in the game.
Right, the fat five that we were, just 'cause we were older. I mean, we somehow instead of fab five, we're fat five. There's all the internet comes up with that, but yeah. But oh, you know what? Thinking about it now, I dissed John Kenny later on when I found out that he wanted to get me voted off because of my disability. And he said something about, Chad's the weakest link, obviously, even though I was doing just fine in the challenges. But so I think that looking back now, I kind of changed my answer about Brooke because if I knew then what I knew later, I would have wanted to vote John Kenny out. But at the time, it was just, like I said, arbitrary. So,
Gotcha. Now, yeah, I just was able to rewatch the show like yesterday. And if you guys would have gone with John Kenny instead of the girls, like if you would have voted Twyla or Julie off instead of John Kenny, you could have gotten something. You probably could have kind of gotten something going with Rory because from the stuff that Eliza said on the audio commentary, I think she liked John Kenny. So I feel
right.
like if you guys could have brought Eliza in,
Yeah, and it's so funny because obviously in hindsight, and you can figure everything out perfectly. It's a whole other ball game when you're there with all the sort of moving parts that are happening at the moment. And I mean, I personally wanted to get John out just for personal reasons because of what he was basically saying against me. But also, if you notice this during the season too. He was really lazy around camp, John Kenny, and there was scenes of me like bringing big old uh, bushels of firewood and dropping it down. And he's just like laying around, and he's a little bit of a pretty boy prima donna. And I mean, I still kind of think that. I mean, I haven't talked to the guy in years, but like we were hard workers and we were ready to, move on and do. Sure, he's a good athlete. Yeah. But it's kind of like you got to be the whole package. So he was dispensable. But obviously later, you look in hindsight with the merges, I mean the alliances that formed later, yeah, who knows whether it would have helped or not, but that's really easy in 2020 hindsight, right?
Yeah, like I definitely noticed that you and Chris were pretty tight. So you guys having a good bond, and then in watching it, Chris played a big game. He played a big and outstanding game. Like he had agreements with a lot of different people. He set up a lot of different alliances. He and the girls were able to go really far into the game. And I think that's like just like that's a testament to how well he played the game.
I agree, and he was really good. So there's all this stuff and reasons that he may not have been invited back as a win, all winners season. There was that one, and then other seasons. Um, but he 100% deserves to be one of the top winners because he did everything. He had it all. Like he was really good at challenges, and he won a bunch of challenges. He was good at the outwit part because he manipulated this that he completely changed the tribes to his liking so that he got all the way to the end. The outplay outlast. Obviously, that was he was a brilliant player for Survivor, but there was stuff, personal stuff, like after the show and everything with dynamics with he and I are still very good friends. So we were very close, just like all friendships, like whether it's out of high school or college or anything, like if you don't live right next to each other, it's hard to maintain that friendship. But we were still very close through the years after Survivor when I was traveling around speaking a lot. I visited him a couple times in Ohio. He came out and visited me and Julie. Julie lived in LA.
Oh,
Um,
nice. That's great.
yep, we went down and saw her, and then they came up and saw me in Northern California too. And we've all met at Chris's house too. And then very recently, just under a year ago, it was my spring break last year, and my spring break's coming up now. Um, I flew out to Maine, and so did Chris, and so we visited Julie. She lives in Maine, so it was us three are pretty tight. Yeah, so yeah, he's a good
Nice.
friend. Yeah.
It's great that the show picked up on that like you, Julie, and Chris were good friends on the show. Like obviously you guys and Lee had a good relationship, you guys and Twyla had a good relationship on the show because I felt like after the tribe swap, this season started to get stronger. I felt like when it got to the merge, things kind of got stronger too.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a good season for that. And it's funny because things have changed so much through the years with Survivor. But back then, the tribe swap, and the mix up, that was kind of it was a big new innovation. And then the merge was a big deal too. Now there's so many more like other like variables in the game, but yeah, I liked that. And the two women, and of course, Julie and Twyla, and I got to know them well. And of course, Julie ended up becoming a really good friend. And so, yeah, I totally value that.
Yeah, like I thought that was great. I feel like since your season, production may have decided that having a tribe of all women and all men was probably not the way to go. They did it one more time with Survivor One World, and that season was bad. So
Oh, yeah, they had done it one previous season before season nine. I forget what season it was, but I kind of knew as soon as they started dividing us at the very beginning with the first when the Vanuatu were coming down and meeting us from the those little outrigger canoes, I was like, oh, this is going to be men versus women, because I forget what season between 1 and 7. I know it wasn't like that in All Stars in 8,
I think it was
but I
five
was it okay.
because Africa was three, Marquesas was four. It was after Marquesas. So it was the Amazon season. Jenna Marasco won, and I think Rob Sesternino came in like third or fourth.
That's right. There were two Jennas, and of course, Ethan got together with Jenna Maraska.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and yeah, Rob still's got his podcast, right?
he's incredible. He's
Rob has a
absolutely
podcast.
incredible. He was doing it before like podcasts were like a thing, you know?
Right. No, I totally. Hey man, I'm gonna actually just close this blind. Just I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay, so let's see here. Start video. All right, yeah, I just had to close that because the sun was coming right in on me.
Sure, sure.
Things change,
Um,
you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, so from what you said on the audio commentary, you said production was kind of pushing back against you guys a little bit for the topics of conversation on your tribe. Like it kind of devolved into lowbrow humor.
Yeah, gosh. You know, I forgot about saying that on the DVD, but it's true. So it was, I don't know why, but there were, there were us five that were older, but then there were guys in their early 20s, mid 20s. Like they were just, it was very dumb potty humor that was just like going on and on and on through the night. Because a lot of it was just nervous energy, a lot of it was just whatever, giddiness. And I remember production kind of barking at them, going, "Hey, just so you guys know, none of this stuff is going to make it on TV. Just so you know, none of this stuff is going to," because they kind of want us to do real thing. They're not going to direct us, but they want us to, talk about things that maybe they can actually use a little bit of it to show. Meanwhile, on the Lepevi tribe, here's what's going on. If they can use zero of that, then that sucks for their editing.
Yeah, like there was a time early in the game where you guys showed up at the challenge and you see Probst and he's like Lepevi. So he
Yeah,
you like kind of scolded you guys a little bit because obviously production was like talking to Probst and like they were saying, okay, we can't get as much stuff to use as we would probably want.
I think that may be true that he was kind of sore because of that. Because certainly Jeff does talk to the camera crews and the segment producers that are there with us during that time. And if the scuttlebutt around the staff is like, oh my God, it was a hellacious night of nothing that we can't, all this energy and filming and all, we can't use any of it because these guys are being idiots. Jeff's gonna like give us that vibe. So I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, in general though, like I'd say your season's talked about pretty highly. I'd say it's like somewhere in the or middle to like the upper middle, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I've heard. I mean, right away it was like, it was big for the time, it being the ninth season. And I've heard sort of mixed things right afterward. And then I think a lot of seasons kind of took, like, we lost spots, if you will, if you're kind of talking about that upper half. Like we lost definitely rankings and in sort of the public view. But I think since then I've gotten a lot of really good feedback. And when they start to air it overseas, so it was like at one point it was like Czechoslovakia, and then like all over
Oh, cool.
Eastern Europe they're showing it, and then I would get tons of like basically fan mail, on social media and my website too, saying just all stoked about me and the season and stuff. I'm like, oh, good, it's getting some resurgence. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like from talking to Dolly about your season, she had really good things to say about Scout. She actually said that like Scout's a very cool lady.
Yep, she Scout and I are close. I mean, not when I say close, we're so with Julie and Jeff. I mean, Julie and Jeff, Julie and Chris are my closest from that season. But Scout and I have always been good friends, and we uh, have kept in touch all these years. Not a whole bunch, but we certainly have kept in touch. And then I just sent her for her birthday a copy of our season Survivor Vanuatu on a thumb drive because I have a friend that can take DVDs and just easily, he has a machine that just translates it and converts it onto an external thumb drive. And it's nice to have. It's a better medium than a DVD, right? Going forward. So, yeah, because DVD players will be obsolete. And if you want to give it to your grandkids, I think that having it digitally on a on your computer is going to be easier than having a DVD player. So um, anyway, I did that for a few of my castaway friends on Survivor.
Oh,
Sent them
nice.
those. Yeah, but
All
that was
right,
the
that's
last
great.
biggest Scout. She's a really cool person. Scout is.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like Scout probably has a lot of stories to tell.
Yep, she's super down to earth. She is a good person, and like one of the things about that tribe when it started getting toward the end, and I knew the women had a very tight alliance. She was my one hope. Like I was Princess Leia and Obi-Wan was my only hope. It was like, you're my only hope. Get me in. And she tried. She tried to break the women's alliance to, to make a case. Whether or not that was shown on TV or not, I don't know. But like she was less about it's got to be all women go into the final and more about who the people are. And I think that that's what I really believe too. I have really good friends that are men and women, and for Amy to have just tried to keep the women together, I think for her own benefit was like I wasn't going for that because obviously I was on the losing end.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I guess Chris started to win immunities, right?
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, he did. He got those individual immunities toward the end, and it saved him. And then he was able to use a lot of his own skills, as it were, his uh, his powers of manipulation to convince the women what he wanted. So he was very good.
Yeah. And kind of just from like hearing him on the audio commentary, like kind of what you were talking about with Scout. He, he, he seems like a good dude. He seems pretty down to earth.
He is. He's a really good guy, and he played the game to win. And I would have thought that that's how I would have done it too. But I was really my strong suit is like kind of like with Coach this season, where he's like, "Man, I really thought that everyone would, I'm a man of my word, right?" That's what his whole thing is. And Mon Oz, he kind of like ratted him out. Remember? Okay, so I'm going in as an honest person, as a completely like genuine person, and I'm going to be athletic, and I'm going to help innovate, around camp. And I feel like I'm perceptive, and I can figure out what's going on with tribes. But when it comes to the actual lying and manipulation and like the backstabbing portion of it, which is inevitable, I that's not something that comes naturally to me. Yeah.
Hmm.
I wish I could have
Yeah,
saw, you know.
yeah. Like Chris was kind of onto something. Like he had a few different alliances going. So yeah.
Yep. that's the way to win, and that's what he did. He won the game, and that's why. Part of
Okay.
the, I think most of the reason why, but it doesn't hurt when you're winning immunities, right?
Yeah, like the immunities is like huge.
And
Yeah. I feel like he played on the right season too, because if it was a mixed tribe, the challenges probably would have been harder and they would have been catered more towards like Brooke or Brady or like uh uh John P or John Kenny.
yeah, no, they were all good athletes, that's for sure. Yeah, it was I never thought about it like that. Yeah, because if it was mixed up, we would have had to compete against those dudes. So yeah, I didn't really think about that. You're right.
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I'm like reading a book about Survivor right now, and in the book it's talking about how he, well, yeah, I'm not sure how true this is because I haven't heard anything else to like corroborate it, but they say production when you're just like when they're like meeting the cast and before they go like to the island, they say, okay, you dress this way, you bring that outfit, you bring this outfit. I know you guys had to dress a certain way for your season, I guess.
So I are from our
Okay.
batch. Yeah.
I feel like for your season, at least for the men, the aesthetic was either the South or from California, because you, JP, and John Kenny were all from California,
Mhm.
and Sarge and
Oh,
Chris,
yeah,
I think we're all from the South.
for sure. And then Rory, and I don't remember. I think he's Midwest. I
Yes.
forget where he's from actually,
Oh,
but you're right. Yeah, Bubba's from Tennessee, Chris from Ohio, and Sarge was like Georgia.
third, South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Okay. He moved after that. Yeah.
Okay. Rory was from Iowa.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was Midwest somewhere. I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Twyla was from the South. I
Yep.
Leanne was from Wisconsin. Amy, I'm not sure. Lisa was from the
Amy,
South.
Colorado. Yep. Amy's from Colorado. Yeah, that's right. Wisconsin was Leanne. Leanne and I were friends too. So Leanne and Julie and I and Chris actually got together after Survivor. Yeah, but Leanne
Interesting.
and I were in touch for years after the show. And I could
Yeah.
call her I could text her at any time and it would be just like no
Yeah.
big deal. But yeah, she's super cool too.
Yeah. The consensus from talking to Dolly about it, she said that like Leanne, she said that Leanne was probably the sweetheart of the season.
Yeah, she's a very cool person, but her game was played as an under the radar person, but I don't think that's how production saw her during casting. They thought she was going to be a
Oh,
different person than that. So
okay. Yeah, because I'm like taking a look at like the episodes and like the edit she got, and I'm not seeing her a ton in the edit at all.
yeah, I truthfully I don't think that, and I don't know this. I haven't talked to production about it, but I don't think that they were super happy with what she was doing as far as based on how she interviewed and when they put her in the game. They, I believe, casting and the production itself feels like they have a very good idea of who they're getting before they put them on. And when that person changes entirely, they don't like it. Yeah. So they're gonna
Okay.
not. put as much of that person on. But truthfully, I think she was so under the radar. She was just turned into a quiet person, and so there's not as much to put there if you're just being quiet, you know.
Yeah, she said during a confessional that she was very tired on the show. And she said when she becomes more tired, she, she starts to get
Mhm.
quiet.
Yeah, 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 okay, I can see that. I can see how her metabolism had changed a lot. Like everyone had because of their lack of food, lack of sleep. But she was a pretty, I think she was a heavy smoker before the show too.
Yeah.
And then when you go,
Okay.
all of a sudden you're not smoking, that's got to be a big, yank on your system. Sarge was another one. He was a smoker, and you don't have that, so it's got to affect your body. I mean, it must change you
Yeah.
guard your personality or whatever. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Two topics that kept coming up a lot on the show for your tribe were you guys pretty much the only thing to eat on the island is plantains. So you guys ate a lot of plantains, and the quarters in the shelter were a little bit questionable.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only thing I found at first was heart of palm. So you find these little palm trees that are sprouting. You can take them apart. There's just this little bit there. Plantains, there was not as much as you would think. We eventually found manioc. I found it was Rory and I found a tree, which was they look like limes, but they were actually a type of mandarin, like orange. You peel them and they're an orange. We found that. I don't know if it was on one episode, but it was one tree. We just cleaned the tree out. Um, we could not, the fish and crab, like meat, was almost non existent. We couldn't get that. Um, so yeah, food was really a tough one. And after All Stars, we were told that we weren't going to get any food. Like the fans voted to give food this season in season 50. There was no such thing for us. So we were very, very much starving. The shelter, it we didn't really have much of a shelter. We didn't need it unless it was raining. And when it would rain, the shelter sucked. It was like water would come in, so it was almost useless. But I just remember the shelter being the last thing that people wouldn't hang out there. It was just, you just sleep in the open air. But like obviously, if it rained, you try to get under there and stay dry. But I remember after one night of rain, I felt like I was just as wet if I'd just been out, in the pouring rain. We could have made it better.
Okay. Um, yeah, like I feel like there was a little bit of contention among you guys on like who had like a certain spot in the shelter or something like that.
We're getting a little glitchy.
Yeah, I just had to change rooms.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there was like one episode where uh where Bubba apparently had like a certain spot in the shelter, and his
Breaking
spot was
up a little
pretty,
bit. I can't hear
he
you.
had a good spot. He had a good spot in the shelter.
Oh, I just heard a little bit of what you said because the audio is not coming through perfectly. Uh, the I know exactly what part you're talking about, and it wasn't in the shelter; it was around the fire. So there
Oh,
was a
okay.
part where, yeah, Bubba and I got into a little confrontation because it was of it was my opinion that every night someone, because there was one part of the fire that, because it was kind of a the shape of the area right around the fire, there's one place where you could lay and it'd be just the perfect like prime real estate. I think that's the term I actually used on the show. It was the best spot. And so it seemed really stupid that every night whoever got there first would get that spot. That's ridiculous, right? Like we should be a civilized tribe and a team, and we take turns doing, just be like taking watch or something. You take turn being what, not one person does that. It's kind of just common sense. And so I'm complaining, and Bub was like, build a bridge and get over it with this shirt on, by the way. This is Bubba's shirt. um, he gave me one of these. His mom had tons of them because she used to work for Bob Barker, and he wore this on to Survivor. So he gave me one after the show. Anyway, he's a friend, but at the time I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I went to Sarge, who was kind of our leader in a way, because he's a sergeant in the army. He was at the time, and he leads troops, and so he kind of like knows how to do that. So I went to him, and of course, Bubba thought I was like telling on him or something. He's like, whatever. But he just knew he was caught and being, I don't know, he was just being immature about it. It's like, why don't we just do this like mature adults and have everyone just take turns for that best spot? Yeah. Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
story.
Okay. Um, yeah, like I guess it's like completely different if you're just like camping and like you get spots around the fire. But if it's like a place that you live for like 20 plus days, yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And well, it's about sleep. Like camping part, I understand I've done a lot of camp, but like when you go to sleep, you're in a sleeping bag and it's all like you're warm and it's an even warmth. But when you're trying to sleep and you're wet, you want to be there and be at the perfect part of the fire so that you can be warm enough to be able to sleep. So when you go to sleep at night, there's no blankets, there's no nothing. You're wet and the temperature drops and it's cold. So, if you're sleeping at some part of the fire that's you're just barely feeling it, as opposed to just laying on the nice long, like a right parallel to the fire. That's kind of how it was. That was what the issue was. So yeah,
Mm.
I mean, it makes a difference. Like all those little things seem catty and sort of dumb when they're arguing about them on TV. But dude, it's like when you're talking about getting a night's sleep or getting a little bit of food or any kind of comfort, it makes a big difference, just for your own social, disposition, how you're feeling, you know, how well you feel like you could play the game because you're feeling better about, your mental health. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you, man. That's like a big deal, and that's something that you don't realize from watching at home. Because watching at home, you're in your home, so you're not thinking, well, what would it be like if I was actually there, you know?
Yeah. It's totally true. It is.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so let's see. I think I only have a few more questions. You guys didn't play with any hidden immunity idols. Would hidden immunity idols be something that you would be curious about playing with?
Yeah, I would. When they first introduced those, I thought it was a really good innovation. I think it's brilliant how CBS and Productions has continued to tinker with the game, but not change it so that it's not the same game. They've maintained the fans, but if they change it entirely, then everyone's like, forget it. It's like that's not even what we started watching. But they change bits and pieces of it to make it more dynamic. I think it would have been cool. I don't know how well I would have done with, well, I guess I could have found them just as good as anybody, but as far as like hiding them or creating a fake one or like, doing all that sort of shell game of you have it or who you're going to tell and all that, that would have been interesting. It's hard to say how well I would have done with that, but yeah, it would have been kind of cool to experience that for sure.
Yeah. Um, I feel like if you would have had one during your season, do you think you would have played it when you guys were merged and you could see that, yeah, the girl lines was just like really strong.
Yeah, so for our season, it would have been very clear because we knew exactly Sarge and I. We were on the chopping block. There was no question about who was going to be voted off. We knew 100% that it was the women that were in alliance, and it was just a matter of which guys were going to go what night. And so once Sarge was voted off, the next time it could have been Chris or me. I really forget actually like what was going through my mind that night, like if it was going to be Chris. I knew it was one of the two of us, so I would have played it. Yeah, I would have. It would have saved me. I don't know if it would have saved me the next time. I would have gotten immunity out of it. There's so many like things that happen or that don't just in. I mean, in life in general, you're like, oh, if this would happen, then this would have changed, or yeah. So it's hard to second guess it now.
Hmm. Yeah, like I totally know what you're saying in that you wanted to like keep your original alliance strong and you didn't want to like flip or like maybe start something new with the girls. But I feel like you and Chris could have maybe pulled in a few girls together.
It was locked basically. Amy had a lock on the women, and like was saying before, uh, Scout was the one person that might have been able to sort of create a fissure, and but Amy had them together, and then when it was just down to me, Chris, and Sarge, it was obvious. I mean, looking back at it from their perspective, of course it makes the most sense. Just vote off the guys, and then it's these women's left. Whether it means just because they are women, or it's because that's going to be the four of us left. Doesn't really matter. It's just that you're already in the majority, so you might as well pick off the three in the minority. So it was very difficult for us to break into that. But once Chris was solo, then he started winning immunities. Then all bets were off. Then he kind of was very adept at doing what he did, and he won the game.
Y- Yeah, man. Yeah, like Chris was able to get a really good alliance with like Scout and Twyla and like stuff in the end to really kind of help his game. And yeah, from like top to bottom, like he played an amazing game.
I agree. Yep, he should have gone. He should have been invited back. But yeah, we talked
Yeah,
about that
yeah,
one.
yeah. Um, let's see. So did you have a challenge that you liked in particular?
Yeah, the one challenge where I like challenges that are really athletic and like, but don't involve like balance on a little balance beam. And there were a couple that were balance ones that I didn't really like as much because I'm not as good at that because my big foot. But the one where I was chosen to run into the forest, untie a paddle. Remember that one and come back, and then John Kenny and I paddled that outrigger out and around the buoy. That was my favorite one, just because I was able to like excel at it, and I felt like it played to my strengths.
Hmm, nice. Yeah, like they do a lot of challenges involving water now, but they don't really do the canoe that much anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I feel like I saw one somewhat recently, but
Cool.
yeah, but it was rough because John and I were not doing the best because I was in the front and it was kept moving back and forth. And if you've ever canoed, you know that the person in the back's really the one that does the steering. So the person in front doesn't have as much. So we're yelling at each other, and it was classic Survivor.
Oh man. Yeah, you guys had some good challenges your season. Like probably the favorite that was pretty unique to your season. They did something similar in Africa when they had to catch goats, but you guys caught pigs on your season.
Yep, that was actually when you said what was your favorite challenge. I think that my favorite challenge at the time was that one I just described. But looking back at it now, the my favorite challenge of watching the show was the one with the pigs. It was awesome, and I got my pig. It's like you got to jump into the mud and get it. And I was happy that I was, because really when it comes down to it, you want to succeed in the challenges for your tribe, but also there's a part of you that feels like I don't want to fail on national TV. And so I was able to do those challenges. Remember that one I had to dig for the rungs on the ladder, and if you
Oh,
just
oh,
saw
I
it
don't
last,
remember that one.
and I got all the rungs first on the ladder. I was the first one to get them all, but then I couldn't put together the rungs in the puzzle order to get it on there. And I could have sworn when I'm doing it, the thing was like flawed, but obviously they made it properly, but I just couldn't get it together. But I dug them all up the first. I had more time, but I should have been able to do that one.
Oh man. Yeah. So like does production give you like a sneak preview of like the challenges at all?
No, not even close. No.
Mm, nice. Um, yeah, I know Probst has said they trial and error all their challenges, like that they have a unique dream team that tries all their challenges ahead of time. But I guess they probably have several hundred of challenges that they could do, and they take a look at the cast and then they decide what they want to do.
Yeah, I think that they do it based on the cast to some extent, but you're right about that dream team. So the dream team tests it. We saw all these people too because they would be watching these challenges. They'd be fixing like doing the last you know alterations or whatever. We kind of knew who these people were, so they not only set it all up, but they test them and then they probably break it down and they have all these jobs around you know just menial. It's just the labor, really. But there are a bunch of 20 somethings that are just like cruising around, having fun and probably partying, I guess, at night. I don't know. But it would be a fun job. I remember thinking that, oh, that would be a good gig. The dream team.
Yeah, like you would probably have to ask Probst or Burnett if cast members, if they worked as dream team members later. Like I would imagine they've probably approached Ozzy about it, because he's so good at challenges.
Yeah, I don't think I've never heard of anyone going to the dream team. I don't think so. Because really, they could just get you know, pretty decent variety of athletic young people to be able to do that and get a good idea of how it works. I don't think they would even need to go into former contestants at all.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Like I've heard of former survivors going into casting positions, like uh,
Yep.
Kelly Goldschmidt from Africa. She
Yep.
worked in casting and she casted a few people, I think, to play in the Amazon season.
Yep. And there's been others that have gone into segment production as well. So they've definitely used not only for Survivor but from other reality TV shows. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and Survivor does give you a little bit of an insight into how it all works. So yeah, it's an advantage if you wanted to go into you know showbiz.
Yeah. Um, I think Eliza was the only person from your season to play again. Oh no, her and
Amy,
Amy.
yeah, Amy was also All Stars. Yeah, I wish I would have been called back, but yeah, never got the call, unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah, man. So if they called you today, would you do a current season?
Yeah, I would. I sent something into our former casting director before season 50. It was, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And I sent a video just saying, hey, you know what? I just want to let you guys know I'm still doing this, that, and this, that. Just wanted to show them that I'm still like in shape and I'm still whatever. I'm still the same person, but just a little older. And I sent it to Lynn Spillman, our casting director, and she said that she left the shirt. She's not working at Survivor anymore, but she's forwarded it on to the powers that be, like whoever replaced her. But they have all my information, and yeah, I guess I would. It would be a lot harder now. I'm not, um, I'm not 33 anymore, but it would be something that there's no way you could pass it up. There's no way. I'd have to do it.
Absolutely. It's like a really special thing to do. It's a once in a lifetime experience. Like I feel like when you were playing, like they went to some pretty fun locations. Like they were still getting pretty experimental. But now the
Yeah.
show is so streamlined and it's exact and like they have to plan everything that yeah, they just go to the same place every time now.
Yep. I think that streamlined is the exact word. You nailed it right there. That's what they did. Is they finally, after years and years of, they streamlined the process of moving from one location to another, and then they finally are like, you know what? Why don't we just do away with the whole, Survivor Africa or China or Marquesas? Let's just say Survivor, and then we have the show, and then which was true. I mean, it worked. I mean, not every people weren't leaving because of that. So it was not like a deal breaker. People were still fans of the show, and they were more into the characters and all the other stuff and the new innovations and changes in the show as opposed to the location.
Yeah. I've noticed a few things about the current seasons. The tribal councils are longer. So the tribal councils are getting longer. They're like 5 to 10 minutes longer than they used to be. And they splice in footage from early on and later to create stories.
Wow, because for years I've talked about how they don't take anything out of context so that things are accurate as far as the editing goes, where they're not going to put something in that doesn't fit
Hmm.
wise. So that's surprising to hear that.
Yeah, if you look at Tony Velachos, he grows a pretty big beard. So if you look at his beard growth, I think it was in the Winter's War, you can see that it changes over time. And you can see sometimes he's got it, sometimes he doesn't have it at all.
Hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed that. Wow.
Yeah, like I feel like that was just like a key change with the current game. Like I guess like they changed producers and stuff. And I think that yeah, they have Probst as an executive producer now too. So he's probably done some changes to the show too.
Yeah, they would have to do very subtle changes because if they did anything that was too obvious, it would be no good. So, but yeah, certainly in my season and probably just several seasons after, I mean, it was pure. It was a very pure form of Survivor, if you will.
I feel like it still captures like how people are. It captures people's humanity like really well. Um
Mm.
like some people are really different outside of the game because the conditions are so intense. But I feel like you get to learn a lot about the people when they're on Survivor, like about like how they are and how they function.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Um, yeah. I feel like with you guys in Lepevi, at least like the Five Alliance, like it seemed like you guys all got along like really well.
Yeah, no, we did for sure. I was aware from the beginning that I wanted to try to keep um, Rory around as long as, in other words, I was going to always be in his corner. Um, I mean, I like the guy; he's a decent dude, but also just the fact that he's the only minority there, that was important to me. I felt like of the entire season, you know. So uh,
Yeah.
Julie's Native American, but like it was just one of those things that I feel like, all right, I'm going to try and do what I can to advocate for him. So, yeah, that was the one thing from R5 that I remember the most as far as like who I want to make sure to be with. Chris, of course, was. I had a feeling early on that he was going to go far because you could just tell. So I was like, okay, I'm glad that I'm buddies with him.
Yeah. Chris said he became friends with you like right from the start. He said that
Yeah.
you guys kind of had the same sense of humor.
Yep. Yeah, he's just a good friend, man. Like we still have really good times, and I wish we could hang out more, but yeah, if we lived closer, we definitely would spend more time together. But yeah, we're definitely friends, and he's right. Yeah, we were like that from the beginning. We could tell that we made a connection, for sure.
Uh, so Chad, you'll probably know this. So when Sarge talks about going to the races, is
Yeah.
is he talking about the NASCAR races?
Yep. 100%. He's a huge
Okay.
NASCAR guy, and so is Bubba. And Chris too. So Chris, Bubba, and Sarge were all, on that. They're the Southerners, right? So that's what it's a big thing in the South for sure. Yeah, and then Big Tom from Africa was into it too. And I visited Big Tom in Virginia. I knew
Nice.
him, and Lex lives here in the Bay Area, so I know Lex. And Lex and Big Tom are good friends. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that you know through Survivor, and you become friends, even people that aren't from your season. So it certainly was like that at the beginning of Survivor, and I can't even believe it was season 9. I thought was well into it. 9 seasons. It's like that's a lot for a TV show. But who knew that would ever go to 50? It's crazy. So at the time I was on, it was like it was the most recent thing, and it had been years, but now it was super early in its life. So but it's really, I feel
Yeah.
cool to it's cool to meet people from other seasons.
And from like a production standpoint, the show still does very well. It still gets very high ratings.
Yeah, relatively speaking, I mean, based on how long it's been around. Yeah. And this feat, they did a really great job marketing season 50 too, because it's everywhere. It is pervasive. You see it, from TV to, I've seen print stuff. It's on social media. It's everywhere. And then they got celebrities, right, to do stuff for the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're still doing it right.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. You have to give it to Mark Burnett, like a really special guy who's a great producer. Like it was his idea to get the National Geographic photographers to film Survivor, and that really paid off. And then he he has a few more shows in the mix, but he kind of created reality television, really did.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a massive innovator. But yeah, he brought Survivor over from Scandinavia, I guess. But like, just to be able to sell this idea of this completely different show that's never been seen in the US. And not only that, but showing it in the summer. So when the first season, I watched it from the first season from Borneo, from Survivor, the original Survivor. And my wife and I tuned in that very first season, and it was a summer program. And things didn't start in the summer back then. Everything was fall. All the brand new shows started in the fall. This was like this summer show that all they showed was reruns and stuff in the summer. And it was a brand new show started. It was a brilliant idea, and they really needed to think outside the box for this. And so not only was it a new show that they're introducing that had never been seen in reality TV, there had been real world. There had been stuff that had paved the way a little bit, like kind of broke the trail, but then he just paved the way for all the reality shows, with this. So with Survivor, but yeah, he's
Yeah,
definitely innovative.
yeah, because like CBS's flagship was Big Brother and Survivor, and then I guess The Amazing Race started after that too.
Nice. Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure you know well that they cast for Big Brother and Survivor, and then they'll just kind of pick ones from one show or the other, like before they go onto the show and say, "Oh, you'd be better for this or that." So there was like John Kenny. He was a Big Brother guy that they never put
Oh.
on Big Brother, but they used him for our season. There were others too that was just known that they didn't make it on the one, but then CBS is like, "Oh no, let's use you for this other show." So
Nice. So keeping that in mind, Chad, would you want to play on Traders?
I don't know. I would have to really watch. I would have to watch the show. You know what though? It's a total Boston Rob. Like, you gotta like. It certainly would not play to my strengths, right? Based on what I was
Okay.
saying before. But I haven't. I've watched small amounts, so I have not. I would have to become a real student of the show first. But I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not going to do a TV show. Jesus, like now that I've done it, it's like if you would be dumb not to go on TV, basically. I'm just straight up like of course I would do it, but it would be way more intimidating to me than Survivor.
Okay. Yeah, with like Survivor, like you were a great fit. Y- like y- you did work at camp and you were good at the challenges.
Yeah, I think I fit their what they wanted me for, and that's like the inspirational guy, and I did what I needed to do. But the one thing that they didn't show is like with my friends and family, I'm funny with them and just like always cutting it up and laughing and joking around and just getting silly sometimes. And like they didn't really show, but everyone has a certain amount of screen time they can show. So they showed me with the screen time that they wanted to fit their character. So which is fine. I mean, I'm cool with that. But yeah, it certainly was something that, um, yeah, it wasn't. Not everyone's portrayed exactly how they are in real life. 100%.
Yeah, it's true. It's like yeah, it's a show and like they have like a narrative that they want to tell.
Yeah. Another example is uh, Katie Gallagher. So she was on the season directly after mine. Was it Palau? Or was it? Yeah,
Wow. Because that
yeah.
was
And
when Tom won.
was it right? Right. So exactly. So she you saw her in the show and she was, a good person, good player and stuff. But then I met her afterward and I had heard this too from other contestants that she's hilarious and she's totally like gregarious and all this. And they didn't portray her like that on the show either. And I think that that's kind of the same thing with me that they just showed what they want to show. And it's true, they only have so much screen time that each person can have anyway. So they have to kind of pick and choose, and they can pick and choose exactly how they want to portray you based on what you did. But they show the certain percentage of whatever that aspect of your personality is, you know?
Yeah. Like from hearing Katie on the audio commentary, she was pretty funny. So yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. I've met her, and you see these people at events, and you gravitate toward people. And I've been with Katie a couple different events, and she's hilarious, and we've had a great time.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. That's an interesting point, Chad, that you made about people from the first like 10 or 15 seasons, like got to meet a bunch of people from the first 10 or 15 seasons, but then in recent years, I guess it's harder.
Well, gosh, it just becomes this massive dilute pool of hundreds and hundreds, almost 1,000, right? Of these, yeah, and years go by, and you just become your life changes. You're not in your 20s or 30s anymore, and you're not going to these, like, there were so many events you could go to in the early days. There were just event after event. You could just be on this circuit of, like, one a month if you wanted to, because it was just so massive. And just fun. It was really fun, but and I was traveling a lot doing speaking engagements and stuff. So I had the time and the frequent flyer miles to do it. But as you get older, your life changes, so there's not as much of that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, um, yeah, no, for the first few seasons, people who had done Survivor like would speak at schools and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Ethan Zahn actually set me up with Campus Speak, which is a speakers bureau, and he's Ethan is a good friend. He's the best friend that I have outside of our season. He's a good friend, and so he and I related because we are soccer fans, and I've been to a bunch of his events, and I've hung out with him a lot. And he told his speakers bureau that, yep, I got another dude from the season that just happened, Chad, and I created a program, and I started speaking at colleges and universities around the country. Did that for almost 10 years, and
Awesome.
went abroad. Not with, I did some other speakers bureaus too, and then you can just have people contact you your website as well, and just book stuff on your own. Yeah, so I had like 3 gigs overseas, and a couple of TED talks, and yeah, I mean, I can't complain. It was just a really amazing ride.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, like I feel like Survivor's always been like kind of a wholesome brand.
Yeah, I agree.
And like it's such a big deal for kids like who watch it. Like Survivor came out, I was like 9 or 10 years old. And then I would get a chance to see the challenges, and I would love the challenges you guys would do. Like the challenges were just amazing.
It's definitely something that many, many, many people I've talked to said that they watched it with their parents, and, like, when they were little kids, and they still watch it now as an adult. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great show, and good for all audiences. And that, I mean, that speaks to its longevity for sure, and the length that it's been on TV.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then producers come, producers go, but they kind of like tweak the show here and there, but they usually always bring a really good cast.
I agree. The casting is good. It's been, yeah, the quality of that is remained, I think, the whole time. So, and they have plenty of people to choose from. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So Chad, if you had to pick a winner for season or for the new season, who do you think it would be?
Oh my gosh. Oh God. Yeah, okay, so here's what I have to admit. The second episode is still on my DVD. This last week was ridiculous. I didn't even watch TV. I was so busy at work, and other stuff. So I've only seen the premiere. I've only seen the first episode. So but I gotta go with Ozzy. I like him. I've met him and he's a good guy. And I kind of like the way that he's played even just the first episode that I've seen. I like just his honesty, and he's always impressed me with his athletic stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
That's a good pick. Um, he usually always does really well.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd like to see him win.
yeah, I'm going, let's see. Probably not Sari, but I would go Stephanie or Colby.
Yeah, I think I would like to see Colby because I don't know if you remember Australia, but like he basically gave it to Tina Wesson. Do you
Oh,
remember
he
that?
did.
Like
Oh,
he
he
was
did.
basically like
He
the
would
gentleman
have
was like,
taken,
here,
he chose not to take Keith. He chose to
yep,
take Tina.
he would have won. He would have won for sure. So yeah, I remember that very clearly. And there's, I mean, a lot of seasons and there's a lot of details, but that one stands out for me because it was, one of the first seasons and it was, you know, a, just a prevalent thing or just a very predominant thing in my mind. Yeah. So that would be cool to see Colby win. He's a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I feel like someone from the new era will probably do pretty well too. Like
Hmm.
possibly Joe or Q maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for sure. And then Rizzo, I like too. He's
Oh, he's great. He plays a really huge game. He plays a big
totally.
game.
I like it. Yep, I do. I like that. He's very entertaining.
Nice. Like I almost wonder if it's a choice or a put on that he struggles with the challenges so much.
Yeah, I don't know. That's hard to say, but definitely like just like any other season, these people were cast for what they represent, right? And Ozzy's got quite a bit, but certainly, and they even said it in the first episode, like, yeah, he's great at getting food or getting, you know, camp set up and challenges, but he doesn't have that other part of the game. And like, so there's definitely all the different aspects of your game that they picked and chose people based on that, to kind of mix that up. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I yeah, I feel like his social game isn't as strong as some of the others. Um, he could he usually finds a few people. I've been watching one of his seasons recently, the season he played with Coach. I've been watching that one, and he was basically the leader of his tribe in that one. He basically got to see like who stayed and who went, and that was a Redemption Island season. And he had a dream, and he decided that he would be able to be redeemed, and he'd be able to win the challenge. So
Got that.
he volunteered to get voted off, and then he came back on Redemption.
Right. Wow. No, I forgot about that. No, he's a really good player. I'm glad he's on this season for sure. He deserves it. But yeah. So, but Drew, I gotta go pretty soon here. We're
No,
going on.
totally good, man. Chad, you've been great. you've done all the questions um that I had. I really appreciate getting the chance to sit down with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure, Drew. Thanks a lot for having me. And I'll enjoy watching this season.
Okay, man. Absolutely. All right, this has been Survivor Files with Chad Crittenden.
Woo! Right on. Talk to you later.
Yep. So please hit that subscribe button. And I'm writing a book about Survivor. So check out the book. It'll have a lot of,
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing that, Drew. All right, brother. Peace out. See you,
yep.
everybody.